YouTube, what's going on? Well, we're going to look at special car today, at least to the collection. If you're followers to the Instagram channel, you probably know what I might be alluding to, but we're going to kick it up a notch on this video because we're going to do 1/18 scale, and this is a real special car. We're going to take a look real quick. It's probably been on my radar for a while. They teased this car for months ago that it was going to be produced and supposed to come out early summer, and it did. They seem to be able to do a production schedule a little bit better than Greenlight can with their 1/18 scale, but you know what? That's to be expected in today's environment with all the delays with supply chains. 1977 Lincoln Continental Mark V. This thing is gorgeous, and really, this car marked the end of the big American luxury car. It was the last one, 230 inches long, very, very big car, probably bigger than the Suburban Escalades of today, but it was only a 6-passenger coupe. 2 bench seats, one in the front, one in the back. Car made really terrible use of its size. People actually said the rear legroom wasn't that large in a car like this, even though it was so big. A lot of empty space. Even though you had a big block Ford in this car, it probably only was, in this area here, a lot of this was just empty real estate. And if you're a mechanic working on that car, all cast iron engine, of course, open up that hood and try to lift off that intake manifold, do a gasket job, probably break your back off. So, hats off to those guys in the 70s. Car was only in production for 3 years, 77 through 79. But it marked the end of, like I said, the big cars. And this was really the last hurrah when they started downsizing. GM already had raised the flag on downsizing by 77. Ford hung on for a little bit longer. Management, of course. They believed the big car was around. But the second oil crisis, OPEC 2, kind of eliminated the need for a car this large. Really didn't make any sense. But it did sell well. The competition was not much. You could do some Europeans, of course, and of course Cadillac, obviously. Cadillacs also were downsized 77. And it started in the mid-70s with the Seville. The Seville was kind of like that precursor to that Caprice body style with that little boxy vehicle. Good thing about the Seville was small car, and it had a big Cadillac engine. I think it was a 427, something like that. 472, something big in that car. Well, this had the 460 in 77, although going into 79, the emission regulations were killing it. And California basically said, you got to get the 400 Ford in there, and that's what they did. Car was basically its own platform pretty much. Thunderbird and Mark Series cars, I think all the way back to Mark III cars, they'd be sharing their platform. Sometimes Cougar would jump on board too. Well, they are having new plans for the 80s. So basically, the Thunderbird went to the Torino Elite, Ford LTD Elite, something like that. That size vehicle. This car is a bigger car than that. Offered larger engines. But yeah, the 400 was available. A 400 with a 4-barrel. Maybe 2 barrels optional, but 460 and 77 really was the engine that they gave. The other thing that was kind of interesting about this car, turbine wheels. For really the first time Ford used this style. They had something similar, but this is the wheel that they used all the way into the 90s on the Lincoln products. Some Mercury. But you see this car, you're saying it's from the 70s. It looks very 80s. This also is an important car for Lincoln because this is the design language we used all through the 80s. So even though this was an enormous car, they took this vehicle and basically shrunk it and put it on the Panther and the Fox platforms. And they were able to make some new stuff. So by 1980, Thunderbird and the Mark car, the Continental Coupe, kind of joined forces and was on that smaller platform. So people kind of expected that to happen. So I think maybe one of the reasons the sales success was pretty good on this car, even with the bad gas mileage. was because they knew it was coming to an end. You weren't able to get these cars very much sooner. So just soak it in. We'll talk about the details in a minute. But we're just doing a little bit of a walk around on this car. Just a gorgeous car. I believe the Ford only used the one transmission, the C6. Yeah, I had to look that up. I always get the Ford stuff confused. So 3-speed automatic. Of course, they got the faux Continental kit. It went to a Mark series after this, really. Eventually, it dropped the Continental part, and they just called it a Mark. And the Mark 7 would be the kind of the cool one, because Mark 7 car was on Mercury Cougar, Ford Thunderbird, Fox, and you can get the 5-liter in it with a fuel injection, and that was quite a good car. This one, on the other hand, was more of just for chilling and enjoying your comfort. So completely closed body. This is MCG. We've seen these cars before. I'm a very big fan of them, as you've probably seen if you looked at the channel. Got a bunch of them. They're sort of like Greenlight. They're sort of like some other brands, but not a lot of opening features, if any. But they do pay attention to the paint quality, the trim, the wheels, the lights. Let's take a zoom, because this is one of the things that brought me back to what this car was before, and I couldn't remember. I always thought that the corner lamp right there, the corner lens, was what we usually see on the 80s Lincolns, where it's filled in. Really, back in the day, this was once one piece, and we'll see that here. Let's see if we can turn the camera in. And I forgot about this detail. So really what happens at night, so it makes that elegant, quote-unquote, maybe you can catch it here on the film. So this would have been backlit through here, and then, that kind of would have been lit up. So when you'd pass this vehicle, you'd see the Lincoln brand showing up right there pretty clearly. Of course, we got the old school cornering lamps. Back in the day, before turning headlights were more common, you used to put your signal on, this lamp would come on and would illuminate the curb. I love it. And also, this was the time of curb feelers, too, which would be little rods that would come out there and kind of warn you that you're hitting it so you don't curb it. But really, curbing this tire is not a big deal. Nowadays, yes. Just a great construction. You see how they did the license plate? I also like that detail. It's not just slapped on or molded in like a Greenlight or something like that. Separate piece. Also, if people aren't familiar with this car, you see how the waterfall grill, as they call it, flows behind the bumper with its own gap and actually continues down to the lower portion of the vehicle. Now, I can't remember if this car had one of those little plastic or the rubber little air dam things. I haven't really looked at one of these in a minute, but you can see how that grill kind of comes up a little bit. So very, very cool. And if you haven't already stared you in the face, you could see this is a big, nice little piece of metal, even though it's small in real life. It's thick. Photo etch stuff is usually much thinner than this, and if we can catch it on film, let's take a look. Love that hood ornament on the Lincoln. It's kind of like when you drive this car in real life, it's so far away from where you're sitting that this really does act as something to center the car and kind of park it in a parking space. You'd be amazed, today's cars, how they're designed to work around human vision lines. Where these cars, you really had to sit into them and kind of drive them, but it was really like driving a boat, and that's why they got those nicknames. Not just the size, but just the physical, the way they drove. A lot of people are used to having cars that are connected to the road and having brakes that immediately apply force without much drama. This car, there's a lot of drama if you get pretty aggressive with it. I'll just put it that way. The other thing, photo etched Continental on the headlight. These would be vacuum operated or electric, I can't remember, but you'd have dual lamps behind there, circular. This would pop up. But yeah, you got your Continental script there. Looks very nice. A little crooked though. If you look at the C versus the N there, it's a little crooked. Odd too, main plates. So this car would have been up north, getting rained on and snowed on and everything else. Hopefully took it out during the summer, because Maine, like Michigan, got very nice summers. Very, very nice. Okay, a couple other notes on this car, I must say. Interior is very good. We could see the Ford, the Ford corporate steering wheel, two-spoke in there. Very well executed. They did the door trim and the dash with, painted the bezels and stuff. Seats, they didn't do the seat belts, but other than that, the molding is good. And where the location of the seats is pretty good, too. Let's see if we can get into the dash real quick, and then we'll take a real quick look at the back again. It's hard to do. Maybe I should make another one of these where I just take the car apart. maybe that'll be better. Let's see if we can just zoom in. Maybe that'll be better. Nope. All right. Let's have to leave that to the imagination. Let's take a look quickly at the bottom. So, solid plastic base, of course. Perimeter screws. Solid axle. Rolls very nicely, actually. And then we have our separate brake detail that's separate from the axle. You see it doesn't spin. So if you're actually able to look through the wheel, you would see that the brake rotor wouldn't move. And I believe even back then, this car I think was four-wheel disc, but I couldn't remember. I don't remember. I know a lot of people would use these cars and they get the rear end out of them because they were pretty heavy-duty rear ends. Another source for parts for transmissions and things like that, too. And then we got our opera window back there. And actually, if you look at it, you can see the script there. So they did a really good job. They really did. This goes good with the timing of Auto World's 1/64 scale Mark V cars too. And of course they can basically do all the scales or all the 3 years. This car really didn't change too much. They did have special editions to kind of spice it up. They had the designers Bill Blass, Givenchy, or Givenchy, sorry, and what else was it? Milo Pucci. Oh, Cartier, and I think there was a fourth guy. Eludes me at the moment, but they would give special fabric, leather, top, and the paint code, and then sometimes they'd use color-keyed wheel covers instead of these turbines, alloys. But yeah, those cars you could find online if you do a search, and they're quite cool. They also had a Diamond Jubilee car in 1978. It was to commemorate Ford's 75 years producing vehicles, so 78 they had that car, and it came in gold, and I think it also had like a silverish car. So they'd also see the inside of this wheel here is black. They would color key the inside of this alloy and get the color right with the car too. So just little stuff about this car that I like. And I remember when I grew up, these cars were out there. They were such beloved cars that people would drive these into the 90s. I remember seeing these cars around. They'd be rusty, but I don't know. I think hold a special thing in people's heart, and they actually hold their value pretty good. Get a car anywhere between probably like a rough runner, probably like in the Ford, like $4 to $7,000. You can go probably all up into the 30s on these cars, but for something like this, I think that's pretty cool. Well, let's take a look at the box and we'll wrap it up. We got more stuff to come, though, I must say. But this Lincoln, I wanted to share with everybody. I think it deserves just a little look-see. So, Model Car Group, I believe out of Europe. Someone corrected me one time. It wasn't Germany. Maybe it was something else. I can't remember. But anyway, here you go. Now, there's people doing this stateside. They are starting to import these vehicles. I've seen a few more eBay sellers and a few more online diecast retailers actually finally doing model car group vehicles. So they're starting to come out. Now, they're having the Caprice that we looked at before on the channel. We've seen the Caprice. They're going to do some civilian Caprices, two-tone cars. I think they're like 85, 86 Caprice cars. That'll be kind of cool. I'm not going to get those just because I want to see how Greenlight does with their box Caprice. Supposed to be coming out later this year, so we'll take a look at that. One of those is going to be in the collection for sure. And then we'll go from there. But more to come. I think, really, we got some 164 that came in, so we got some exciting stuff there, but there's a 124, 125 scale diecast that we're going to take a look at too very shortly. And I think you'll be surprised at the subject material we're going to take a look at. So stay tuned. Well, hope everybody enjoyed this one. I did. This is a great car to look at. This car actually follows me around a little bit, so I can put it in different areas and look at it, because what a wonderful car to have around. Really is. And, well, hope everybody's doing well, and we're going to look at more cars very shortly. Thanks for watching. More content on Instagram. Thanks for the thumbs up and the new subscriptions. We all appreciate it. Till next time.